The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Pastor Mike, good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Manx Radio. Of course, currently on AM 1368, we're broadcasting the proceedings of Tynwald. The Treasury Minister has delivered the budget. Now the politicians are having their say, so you can listen to that. By the way, you can also check the blog out, a full-time, real-time blog at manxradio.com. In the meantime, you and me on the air till 1 o'clock on the open line, Mannin Line on Budget Day. Wilf's first with us. Hi, Wilf.
Hi. Firstly, a great apology because it's unforgivable. Yesterday, I got in my chair and I thought, right, Mannin Line, and I fell asleep. It's never been known before, and I didn't wake up till 1:45.
Oh, Wilf.
So I know, terrible. It's terrible. I'll make sure it never happens again. I'll jab myself with a pin or something.
Okay.
Now then, what it was, because I heard it after that you were talking about the promenade again.
Yeah.
There was lots to talk about that. Now, the day before yesterday, a fella come to me. He's a little bit older than me. And he brought a picture with him, and it's a picture of the promenade taken from the beach where the groins are.
Yeah.
Now, you could see the groins, and you could see the depth all the way along. And he said he swam all of that, every section of it, and it's a thing you climb over, and you get hold by the hands and drop to the beach. It was that deep. Now, I was looking at this picture, and you know my room because you've been here. I got pretty high ceilings, and I'm looking at that, and it's far higher than that. Now, I've got a suggestion for the government. Now then, the government is too greedy to let anybody take any gravel off the beach to be used for anything. Instead, they build stupid walls costing $1 million, which are not required and are horrible to look at. So, how about, seeing they're so greedy and they won't let anybody take anything, because, well, other people got their fingers in that. We're not going to that. How about if they took the gravel off? If they put machines on, took the gravel off, stockpiled it somewhere, they could use it or sell it or do whatever they want to do with it, and all their problems are finished. It's so easy. But they won't do it.
Explain to me, and you've said this before, Wilf, some people say the groins are what kept the level of the beach down, but you don't go for that.
No, hang on a second. I'll tell you what the groins are put there for. And I would bet good money that if you put a digger on there, you'll come on them groins. They're buried under the sand. Now, what they were first put there for is because you had the longshore drift, which took the sand away and took the cobbles along the beach. Now then, you put the breakwater there. But prior to that, prior to the breakwater, the sand was getting washed away. So the groins were put there to hold the sand for the visitors to play on. That's all they were there for, to collect sand.
Right.
Simple as that. And I bet they're still there, no problem.
All right. Okay.
But if the government cleared it all, then they've got to do with what they want with it. They can use it, they can sell it, they can do whatever they want, and they haven't given it away to anybody.
All right, and it doesn't matter that it's covered. It doesn't matter that it's covered in salt.
Oh no! The rain will wash that out after a while.
Okay.
No, you're stockpiled in a heap. The rain will wash it out. Because we're not short of rain, are we?
Oh, no. All right, okay. Wilf, that's great. Make sure you stay awake until 1 o'clock.
Right, okay, I'll try. I will try.
All right, thanks for calling.
All right.
Cheers. And David's on now. Hi, David.
Hi, Randy. I just wanted to quickly go into why David Ashford didn't want an empty housing person within government, or he couldn't allocate the job to somebody else within government there to assess. How are people going to know how many properties are available on the island, or how many local authority properties are lying empty, or how many government ones which are run by the DOI are empty?
Well, at the moment, we've only got the census to rely on that, haven't we? And that's every 10 years.
Yeah. And it's to say he didn't want another member of staff. Why can't you allocate the duty to somebody that's already in the DOI and say to him, part of your function, if you're on the housing side, is to calculate these things? We're not asking for rocket science, are we? Everybody would contribute to the person by email. Within a couple of months, you'd have a record then of where all these properties are that are lying empty. And what it brought to mind, remember some time ago, it was last year, I think, one of the guys from who doesn't even know me came on to me and said to me, what about the empty properties at Knockalo that are under the DEFA, the bungalows that are there?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. Now, as far as I know, I haven't been out, so somebody may come on and say, yeah, David, they're still empty, or we've refurbished them and somebody's living in them. I'd love to find out, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the budget. I'm waiting for the papers to come in, and then we can have a little look at it. But the waffle at the beginning, by law, the Isle of Man has to set a budget. So the politicians who are playing games with our future, and I think it's awful. But anyway, the other thing I listened to, I didn't listen to it all. I would like, Wilf, you've got to turn off now and again, otherwise your sanity doesn't get back. But the education minister, and always the devil's in the detail, said, Mrs. Kane, support for the regional sports facilities. A glimmer of hope. The clouds have moved away and some sun is coming in. And then, can I suggest to you, Andy, sometime, have a look down at our national stadium. Some of the seats are missing, the dugouts where the teams sit, 3 or 4 of them are missing. They're on a slant. You can't even sit on them without sliding off. And they need to do a little bit more, but I'm praising the minister for identifying things we've done. I didn't hear her say, though, that each school should have a set of PV panels on and be making electricity for the national grid all summer when the schools are shut.
Like you say, David, the devil is always in the detail. And just as you say, we have to set a budget. We simply have to set a budget. Of course, the arguing goes on when the budget's been set. It can often change once it's been announced. But we have to announce the darn thing.
Yeah. And the other thing, too, if people don't realise, the members have had, and members of the Legislative Council as well, have had this budget and had an opportunities like I had years ago and others did, to go to the Treasury Department, go to the Minister from Treasury, have one-to-one meetings, and have the finite detail explained to them. There's an opportunity to do something, and if we do it this way, we can get to it. Like I say, the devil's in the detail, and I'll back off then.
Okay.
And I'll ask Wilf, is he standing next year? Because the local authorities are up, and I'm sure that the people of Ramsey will want to put an X against them. But you need to... because this time we don't have absent votes, so you have to have a postal vote, which will cost us a fortune. But that'll be another day to chat to you.
Okay,
mate?
Appreciate it. Thanks, David. It's 12:15 now, and Howard's with us now on Mannin Line. Hi, Howard.
Hi, Andy. Just listen to Wilf there. Yes, wise old head, but on the groins. I can remember the groins and looked after by the Douglas Town Council, and I think it was initially a decision made by the council not to renew them, because when they were in originally, they were heavy balks of timber, and they were set into the sand, into the beach, and then slotted where they put, now I can be corrected on this, Wilf will probably correct me, they usually use where the marine environment, green heart, But the council just replaced that when it deteriorated with what they term as marine plywood, which wouldn't last 10 minutes down there. But I can agree with him that to change the currents coming into the bay would keep the sand or move the sand to a different area. But in the 1960s, they still had this problem because my memory serves me right. They put one of the old Russian Bucharest excavators down there and digging huge trenches and dropping the stone into it, which in the end it proved pointless. It didn't work. But I just said to Chris, I come across something the other day, and I think it was Weymouth. They have a very similar problem with sand. And there's a fleet of Volvo trucks down there, these quarry trucks, dump trucks and excavators, and they're moving the sand so that they don't have to build a high wall. And they've gone down that road. Now, let's see which one's the most successful. Are we going to add another 4 foot to this wall? Or Weymouth going to just utilise the beach and it's making it up into a nice sandy beach?
Nobody's answered my question, Howard, is that if the beach starts to build up at the back of that wall, on the seaside of that wall, are they going to sweep it away or let it build up against the wall? Because if the darn thing just keeps building up, it's eventually going to go over the wall.
Exactly. That's what they can't see. They're trying to play King Canute. And the sea will always win, regardless of how much they throw at it. The best thing to do is, and it's Wilf's suggestion, is to excavate it. Even if it means putting 3 or 4 Volvo trucks, quarry-type trucks down there, and dumping it when the tide goes right out, dump it right at the waterline. And then it'll take a while, but you're certainly not good. They're saying £900,000. That's simply to keep it under their mandate of it doesn't have to go to Tynwald if it's less than £1 million. But you can guarantee by the little add-ons it's going to creep up over it eventually if it's smoke and mirrors. But the groins themselves went right the way along from the Peveril Steps all the way through and past Broadway and over almost to the Empress. Yeah. And that there then changed the tidal currents, which the people of those days, they didn't go computer. They used their brains, and they saw how the sea worked and used the sea, not a computer, to design a concrete wall that's going to be, well, it is ugly now. But, so, as I say, Weymouth have got the same problems, but got the opposite ideas, and it's what everybody's been talking about here on the Isle of Man, but it's fallen on deaf ears. Okay. And now just another £1 million of taxpayers' money that's being wasted. All
right. Thanks, Howard. Good to hear from you.
Okay, take care.
Cheers. Bye now. The Treasury Minister, Dr. Allinson's delivered the budget for the next financial year. Us here, the residents on the Isle of Man, will pay less tax. Did you hear that? Less tax. Treasurer's announced a new 1 percentage point reduction in the higher rate of income tax.
We have listened to the people, and this budget seeks to deliver. With the approval of this Honourable Court, we will reduce the upper rate of income tax with a rate reduction of 1%, taking it down to 21%. We will initially increase the personal tax allowance up by £250 for a single person and £500 for a jointly assessed couple to take more people out of the higher tax bracket, and I will review this once again in 2026. We will increase employee national insurance thresholds, which will insist the lower paid. But there will be no increase in employer national insurance rates, protecting business finances. There will be increases to the rate of key benefits in line with the Manx inflation, providing support and a safety net for all. There will also be a significant increase of £10,000 in the income threshold for child benefit, putting more money in working families' pockets.
Meantime, £25 million of additional funding is being made available for the Department of Health and Social Care. Manx Care. £25 million extra.
This budget has baked in the additional £43.8 million extra funding provided in last year's budget, plus an additional 5.23% as determined by the above inflation funding formula, and a further £14 million contingency budget held by the Treasury to address some of the unpredictable pressures on our essential frontline staff. In this budget, we are making an extra £25 million available to support health and social care. But we cannot continue to write a blank cheque that starves other essential services of investment and increasingly threatens the overall future finances of our island. Treasury will continue to work with the Department and Manx Care to drive not just value for money, but the improved patient safety and delivery of services we expect and our people deserve. The demands on our NHS have been increasing year on year, and the budget to meet these has tried to catch up. However, further transformational change and reform is essential if we are to improve the health of our nation, and I look forward to the Honourable Member's plans to invest more in primary care, our GPs, community service and dentists, who are at the heart of our community and the first port of call for many of us.
That was the Treasury Minister. You heard David mention that there were some shenanigans at the start of the sitting. Some members expressed their concerns about having a debate over the budget, saying they haven't had enough time. Ramsey MHK, former Health and Social Care Minister, Laurie Hooper, called for the budget to be delayed until the next Tynwald sitting. He said if the document's published, it will give politicians on the Isle of Man the chance to go out and speak to constituents as well as the business community before voting. Mr. Hooper says he'd rather be more informed.
Are we comfortable voting today on a budget that we've been told means draconian cuts to health services without knowing what those cuts actually look like? We got a report on the tax cap, something that this court asked for. We got that yesterday. There's not really a lot of time to review the detailed report that was provided by the Treasury and then to vote on any potential changes to the tax cap today. It's impossible to have a meaningful debate today when there is such a lack of information having been provided.
Meantime, Oncan MHK Julie Edge expressed her concerns about health services on the Isle of Man, adding they haven't seen the Manx Care mandate for the next year or the operational plan. Julie Edge.
How can anyone in here today support a budget when we don't know what that mandate is and we don't know what that operational plan is? That operational plan could well be those draconian cuts. They have not been in here. They have not been debated.
That was Julie Edge. In the meantime, members just voted to proceed with the budget, but obviously Laurie Hooper and Julie Edge had their say, and other people. Let's get to the phones again now. Oh, Juan's on now. Hi, Juan.
How are you, Andy?
Very well today, actually. Yes, you're not. Are you in the sunshine?
Yes, actually, I just arrived back in Florida, so I was wearing my MAGA hat on the plane and my Trump T-shirt and the Trump 24 flag and everything else that Bonsai thinks that I'm wearing. So back in going down to Mar-a-Lago for dinner, you know, all that kind of stuff, conspiratorial. The sun's shining. I was listening to yesterday's program while I was travelling, and there was some eloquent speakers on there yesterday, and a lot of ground covered. Peter Murcott, Chris Robertshaw's, you know, very eloquent, and then we had Bonzo. But going on to this access zone. And it's quite interesting. I think we brought this up, Julian brought this up to people's attention many months ago, and Peter Murcott took the handle on the legal side of things to look at it. That we now have ministers, ex-ministers, not just House of Keys members, but ministers, and the Chief Minister at that. Between Tony Brown and Chris Robertshaw, condemning this bill and what's in it. And it's a very, very intricate read. And like we've said before about legislation, primary legislation and secondary legislation, and where this is leading to, why do we need it? So it's very interesting that you had two former senior members of government pick up on this. And again, it's stuff that's been brought to light, that we keep bringing this stuff to light over the last couple of years and asking the questions of why do we need this stuff in the Isle of Man, and the mission creep and where this is heading to. So I think it's something, Andy, that maybe you could follow up with the relevant ministers. I'm sure Michelle Haywood never sat down of her own accord and designed this. I'm sure she's had a lot of help from someone in government to put this forward. Now, we've got an office full of legal eagles in the AG's department at the moment, squirreling away at all sorts of legislation. And I'm wondering why.
Well, the first job of any government of any country is to safeguard the population, is to safeguard constituents, the people who live there. So the safety of the population is the first thing. So primarily, I think they'd probably say this is to safeguard the population.
But they are also custodians of the land for the people. Now, if this bill is as it seems to be, as you go through it, it's very procrastinated, but as you go through it, seems to be stopping the people, or could possibly stop the people from going into certain areas off their own land. Now, where is this heading? Because we're looking at things that's going on in other places and in the UK. And as I said to Jane Poole Wilson at the conference about security and stuff, this is all stuff that is not designed by them. They might take credit for it, but it's not, because they're just following suit from someone else. So I'm wondering who involved in our government is leading this forward. And, of course, this stuff has been slightly put round the curveball side by bringing it in as a private member's bill, avoiding certain legislation. So, again, it's a lot of mission creep here. And it would be nice for Michelle Haywood to actually come on this programme, if she can, and answer questions from the public, if she will, seeing as she's the name that's behind this, and see if she can answer these questions and put people at ease.
Okay, all right, appreciate it. Okay, don't stay in the sunshine too long.
I won't. Take care, Andy.
28 minutes past 12. Thank you, Jewett. I wonder if you know why the Great Manxland Wall against Douglas Promenade has now gone beyond the War Memorial. I thought it was going from the Empress to the War Memorial. Yes, it is going the other side of the War Memorial, although it's not in front of the War Memorial. I think that's because, isn't it because the sailors on the War Memorial, or the names, have to be able to look at the sea? I'm sure it's because of that. Anyway, Kate said it looks like it's making its way to the sea terminal. I've not seen or read anything about this to say what's happened. Does anybody know what's happening? When is this wall going to finish? Well, at the moment, it finishes when they spent the money, Kate, to be quite honest, but it at the moment is just the other side, or if you like, the Loch Promenade side of the War Memorial, but going up to the Empress, and it inhibits the view of the sea. No ifs, buts or maybes. You can't see through the darn thing if you're below 4 feet tall, and a lot of people are, namely children and babies in prams, can't see. Perhaps also people in wheelchairs can't see the sea because of this. Dick said, Andy, thankfully there's a mere 583 days to Thursday, September 24th, when the election is. So is there any chance that each day we can have a countdown to the next election like Christmas? I, for one, can't wait. After hearing 3 ministers make some unbelievable statements recently in the news. Claire Barber, the DEFRA minister, said that government's no plans to change the climate change initiative, despite President Trump driving a worldwide wedge through the Paris Climate Accord, and the car manufacturers backing out of electric vehicle sales faster than you can say EV. Then Michelle Haywood, DOI minister, saying the DOI is able to make the 4-foot eyesore of the wall along the Prom even higher if they need to. My personal favourite at the weekend was Claire Christian, Health Minister, saying she's discovered the reason why A and E at Nobles is so backlogged with a wait of over 5 hours is because hospitals are full with a shortage of beds, which obviously came as a great surprise to the DHSC in Manxcare, if only they'd just explained this to the ministers. Now, this is all before we have the budget, but don't despair, just 582 days to go to the next election, and we can rid ourselves of this disaster. Thank you, Dick. Good to hear from you. Thanks for your note. Here's a message that said maybe we should have a game, a computer game from the Isle of Man, Manx will say it, called Grand Theft Zero. Also, I had an issue taxing my vehicle as it wasn't on the record insured, and has been with the same firm for years. There's a problem here. It seems a lot of people are having the same problem, and it's not good enough as we pay a fortune to stay legal on the roads and don't need the hassle or the worry. I've paid, but it's not in the system. We still need to keep paper trails, says Manx Will. Have you noticed this now? When you get motor insurance, they send you a link and you have to print the 83 sheets off yourself. Saving money, is it? Or saving the planet? One of the two. Is this true then that if you register insure your vehicle with certain insurers, it doesn't get onto the system in the UK? We had this mentioned with AMPR, didn't we? A very good speech by Juan Watterson, says Texter 376. He isn't going to support the budget. And a message also that says we're sitting on something big here which makes us rich, and it's ours. It will make us richer. If we don't jump on our own gas, then we'll bankrupt the Isle of Man on Duff turbines. Duff, this is Will's word, Duff turbines, and we'll be robbed blind for it. There have been wars over what we have. So why is our government not on the gas? Drill for our own energy and just make our own wealth. Pat on 223 says, is this another raid on the NI fund? Taking 20 million from the NI to pay for a 1% reduction in tax. We need to teach our children, 600 now on the texts, we need to teach our children the basics, building, farming, plumbing. This is what we need to teach them. Text, email, call and WhatsApp. I'll just get to a couple of WhatsApps. It said, AD said, the groins also disperse wave energy, don't you think, with all the storms? That's what we should be doing. When I was a kid having an ice cream on the prom, my granddad used to say, one day Mother Nature will claim it all back. It was hers, and she'll outlive us all. Well, that's probably the truest thing we've heard today. How is 21% less than the temporary 22%, says WhatsApper 566. Can't see in the pink book to complete the horse tramway. Clear, still an anti-heritage agenda, says WhatsApper 927. We still have the halfway horse tram. Do you think any Treasury Minister will finish the horse trams off?
This is the Isle of Man talking. The Mannin Line.
It's a tough time for businesses. Not sure what to do to turn things around? Let Nicola Balker & Co. guide you through. We've helped hundreds of businesses to success. Accountants and tax advisors to businesses on the Isle of Man.
Are your details accurate on the electoral register? If you're aged 16 or over, registration is required and may improve your credit rating. If something has changed or you move house, you can update your details anytime. But if you want to vote in the local authority general elections in April, your information needs to be accurate before the 25th of March. Register or update your details online. It only takes a minute. Just search Electoral Register Isle of Man. For assistance, email elections@gov.im or telephone 685 754. Don't lose your vote. Register now.
Oh, blowing a hoolie out there.
Come in for a bravig by the fire. Just stocked up at Hearth. Never been so warm.
Who's that? Hearth?
Aye, they've got kiln-dried hardwood for me log burner, Colombian coal and smokeless ovals for the open fire, kindling and firelighters all delivered. Great value too.
All goes up the chimney anyway, so I pay more. I'll be giving Hearth a call.
Check their website as well. Just order and they deliver.
For all your fire fuel needs, call Hearth on 560 577 or visit hearth.co.com.
As our loved ones age, they carry not only the memories of the past, but also the uncertainties of the future. Secure tomorrow today with Man Benham's guidance on enduring powers of attorney and more.
As Gilg Nera.
Avashenrish. A Gilg, the Manx Gaelic, Ginian Amera, the mother tongue of Elian Vannin, the Isle of Man.
Avashenrish.
You can catch up with more of Manx Radio's Manx language programmes in the weekly podcast Abershenrish. Say that again.
Avashenrish.
Shene, that's the one.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Hey, Faster My, good afternoon. 24 minutes now before 1. Bournemouth are getting new groins to replace the existing ones which are being repurposed, says John. It's all, well, I mean, Wolf maintains the groins wouldn't stop the beach building up at the top end. And remember, it's only really the other side of the sea, of the War Memorial, that the level of the beach is coming up. From the War Memorial down to the sea terminal, down to the Peveril, everything's fine. It's as low as it ever used to be. It's just that whether it was the Battery Pier going in or whatever it is, the sand is building up on that end and the cross-shore drift just isn't working like it used to do. So do we dig it away or just do we build a big wall? Well, at the moment we built a 4-foot wall. Could go up in size. Who knows where it'll end? Thank you, Fred. I've just travelled up the Newcastle Town Road land where the Corpies butchered the trees. They've just left the trees there to rot. It looks an eyesore. Whereabouts? Anybody got a photo of that? If you could, drop me a WhatsApp with a photo on it. I'd appreciate it. Most of the information that's required for members hasn't been forthcoming. There's no health report, no PSC reports, no knowledge of increases in staff or wage increases. Says AC, he's taking 20 million out of the NI fund. It'd be a good idea to ask Elon Musk if he can assist our government with the budget. I think he's got other things on his hands, to be quite honest. So sad that the usual people are obsessed with... Sue, I don't quite know what you're talking about, Sue. Sue, if you want 768, give us a call. Tell us all about it. Can't see in the pink book to complete the horse tramway again. Nobody spotted this yet. Less tax NI down. Says Mr. NT. A lot of hard work's gone into the budget, but it looks as if disabled and vulnerable people have been dismissed and placed in the ignore and they'll go away pile. Shocking and sad, says Anne. Juan Watterson rarely supports the budget, says James. Well, that's his prerogative. Tax up, tax down, NI up, says 143. A message also, again, this is car insurance again. Why do renewals keep going up by ridiculous premiums, and why is it so expensive to insure a child under 21? What's the point of allowing a child 16 plus to learn to drive if the insurance costs more than the car? I've got a nightmare trying to obtain insurance for my daughter. It's going to cost double the value of the actual car, says Jane. I'll say the obvious, Jane, and that is shop around. It may be a bit of a pain, but if you do shop around, sometimes you can save hundreds of pounds. But point taken, and I'll just go back to the fact that in the Mannin Line outside broadcast in the schools, the number of the years 12 and 13s who drive, have got a car, who are learning to drive, as opposed to those who cycle. Seems the active travel message hasn't quite got through to our 16-year-olds. And also, of course, at 16-year-old, they can vote. In fact, there will be 15-year-olds now who will be able to vote in the general election next year. But point taken, Jane, if anybody's got any notes or any ways of reducing insurance and knows how to get cheaper insurance for 16 to 21-year-olds. I read yesterday that air travel's down. Everyone had an idea why no one mentioned the huge cost of living on the Isle of Man. I used to travel every couple of months when I came here to live in 1976. A note also, you'll be in for a surprise soon. There's another 250 metres of that seawall going from the sea terminal end of the prom, and the wall around the War Memorial is nearly 5 feet high, says 152. It's in the planning. We'll file that under Skeet, 152. But it will be interesting to see. I mean, it may be planned. Whether or not it happens is another matter. But 250 metres of seawall going from the sea terminal end of the promenade. Very interesting. They agreed $1 million for the much-needed Douglas tramway connection, and it's still unfinished. Yet we're spending £1 million on the seawall that isn't needed, says John. I wonder what they'd say to that, 557. I think you think he would help out. Oh, sorry, Maxwell, you're talking about Elon Musk. It's not a lot to do with the Isle of Man. I'm sure has Elon Musk ever been to the Isle of Man? I know his satellite internet place has got an office over here. I don't think Elon's ever made it to the Isle of Man. The trees cut back on the new Castletown Road were cut back by Douglas Council, where the ash were diseased, says 661. Do you have to drill the roots out? I've always wondered about this. Do you have to drill the roots out for diseased ash and elm, or do you just have to take it down to the stump? Where does the infection actually finish on a diseased ash and elm? I think we need a petition to return the Park Road School gargoyles. We could just put them at Bemahake School. This is history. Somebody sent me photos of the gargoyles. They're not pretty. They are very impressive. The groins wouldn't stop build-up of sand. They do stop the build-up of sand, says 005. Not me saying they stop the build-up of sand. It was Wilf who said they stop the build-up of sand. Do they? This morning after the budget, one of our politicians, says Andrew, made a comment about those below a certain threshold being financially worse off than their UK counterparts. What figures was he referring to? That was Dewan Watterson, wasn't it? It'll be in the news at 1 o'clock. Horse trams are very nice, but I'd rather have the money spent on the dentist for grandchildren, says 883. It's difficult, isn't it? Because the horse trams do cost money. Well, they lose money, let's be honest. Our heritage railway system loses money. It costs money. For every ticket that's sold, there's a subsidy by the taxpayer. However, in the greater scheme of things, having a heritage railway system and horse trams brings a lot of people to the Isle of Man, and they spend money. And the decision is taken, the judgment is, that the money spent by those tourists counterbalances the fact that the heritage railway system runs at a loss, and it provides us with entertainment, fun, diversion. So you see the picture? If we suddenly decided because something lost money we wouldn't have it, so we get rid of the horse trams, the only ones in the world, by the way. If we got rid of the heritage railway system, where do you stop? Peel Castle? The Grove Museum? House of Mannin? What do you do? These things cost money, but you could also say that that money is an investment to create a return. Colin said, what's this about what Claire Barber's been saying, and that we may be rowing back on our commitments? Well, climate change has been well and truly in the headlines lately, not least with the new American president vowing to drill baby drill for oil and open new gas fields. At the same time, Norway's biggest energy companies slashed the amount of money allocated for renewable energy initiatives by 50%, half. And Norway is increasing gas and oil production, and they've got a lot of it. So should the Isle of Man be reconsidering its climate change targets or the support it offers to people who are trying to make energy improvements? Well, The Minister at DEFRA, Department of Environment, Food and Agriculture, is Claire Barber, and she's also the chair of the Climate Change Transformation Board.
If you look at where our spend has been on our climate change fund today, actually it's been directly going into people's homes in terms of energy efficiency. That's been our absolute biggest spend. So both through the Green Living Grant Scheme, Energy Efficiency Scheme. And the great thing with that is not only does it provide a benefit to the homeowner through reducing their electricity bills, but it also helps us with the heat decarbonisation across the island. So it's a win-win. And actually when we start to look at the other things that we're working towards around the energy decarbonisation, grid decarbonisation ultimately, I mean actually we're in a position where we have to replace that infrastructure anyway because it's coming to the end of its useful life. So it would seem an opportune point for us to do that questioning as to whether what we've got now is the right thing to continue with. And certainly when we look at the volatility of oil and gas prices internationally, I would certainly be arguing that something we have more control of locally would be beneficial for us as we bed ourselves in for a long fixed period.
But is it not the case, though, that the green initiatives that are being pursued will inevitably hit the poorer in the community rather than the wealthy?
I mean, I suppose it would depend which initiatives you're referring to. But I mean, in respect of the energy efficiency scheme, obviously that is targeted at those people on lower incomes, because we recognise that people who've got higher incomes are absolutely able, to put that investment in some cases themselves. So we are developing a new scheme, which we've talked about a little bit in terms of answering questions and more broadly, because they're areas where we want to make sure that we're bedding in a scheme that actually is available to perhaps more people. And when you look at the bigger schemes, such as the energy infrastructure, actually reducing the volatility of prices, again, is significantly beneficial to those people who are on fixed incomes, because those big changes are things that they find far harder to absorb, understandably. I mean, I'm not saying it's easy to absorb for anyone, but actually for people on a fixed income, that becomes particularly troublesome.
There she is, Claire Barber, DEFRA Minister.
When the Mannin Line's not on air, call Manx Radio to leave your opinion for broadcast on 682 631.
John's with us now. Hi, John.
Hi. Car insurance.
Yep.
You advised the gentleman a few minutes ago to shop around.
Yeah.
Shop around off island, not on island. Now, I'll give you extreme example. We've got 3 vehicles, all insured off island. Yesterday, I insured a Mercedes for £264. Last year, local brokers wanted over 1,100. So, it's just ridiculous. I've tried in the past to go around all the brokers trying to sort of shop locally, as they say. It was ridiculous. The prices they were quoting was unbelievable. I went off island, no problem, got different quotes, and yesterday I did it for £264.
And this is comprehensive, name drivers and stuff like that?
Full comprehensive, with my wife and 2 sons on.
And you're retired at the age?
And they're not teenagers. They're in their 50s, so should we say.
Wow. And up until then, you'd insured on the island?
No, I haven't insured on the island for years.
Really?
I can't remember the last time I insured it on the island. I mean, years ago I ran a driving school, and I think that was the last time I insured it on the island, and that was going way back into the 60s.
So what would your message be to island companies then that offer motor insurance if they're so more expensive?
Well, I think last year he seemed to do, when he quoted 1,100, I got a letter quoting 1,100. It seemed as if he was sort of doing me a favour, by quoting 1,100. But, it was a joke, and it's just not worth shopping round local. And, I'm not a teenager by any means, but it seems to be once you're retired, the premiums just shoot up ridiculous. Wow. But I don't know what it is for teenagers, because as I say, my family has a long past teenagers. But and mind you, I've got grandchildren and great-grandchildren, so I suppose they're going to suffer the same.
Okay.
But I would say definitely shop off island. There's one really good company, and that's Direct Line. And they don't go on any of the comparison sites.
Okay. All right. John, we appreciate that.
Okay.
Good to hear from you. Thanks for that, John.
Bye now.
All right, it's 10 to 1. I just wonder, and obviously everybody tries to shop locally and spend money on the Isle of Man rather than across. But, I mean, when you're faced with figures like that, what do you do? I mean, loyalty does have its breaking point, doesn't it? Nothing wrong with the original sea wall from the War Memorial to the sea terminal. They're pillars and railings, and very nice too. Surely not going to take this wall down and replace it with big lumps of concrete. That will be sacrilege. That's WhatsApp of 754-166 says, we're living in cloud cuckoo land. Just how much difference to global warming do our MHKs actually believe that we make? Let's see some justification in real terms for massive budget expenses that will be better spent elsewhere. The simple fact is the Isle of Man can't and will not make an impact on global warming. I'd like to hear evidence to prove the statement wrong. That's 166. I'll just go back, really, 166. It's public policy. That's what the government has decided. Now, we don't know their reasoning. They obviously they say they want to, if you like, join with everyone else around the world. And the fact is we are an international island. We make our living from international finance, a lot of money, and certainly from e-gaming, which is an international business. So the money that the Isle of Man makes is largely international money. So what they're saying is we fall in with the international line, which is to mitigate emissions, net zero. The word groin is from the French word groin via the late lake grunium or pig snout, says Rich, which is appropriate as the DOI is making a pig's ear of the prom at the moment. As a working single person with a mortgage, this is WhatsApp of 566, and 2 children, I can't afford to go on the trains I pay towards. Again, no single discount on rates. Time to look at moving off the island, says 566. And again, very good point taken. The fact that if you are a resident and you pay via your taxes to, let's just say, the heritage railway system and things like that. Well, there is a way around that, and there's a way around it also with Manx National Heritage. It's to give the residents a cheap deal. So you have a stake in it, you're paying it, but you also get something out of it. So if you get a residence, let's say a year-long pass for 2 adults, maybe you can take 2 children for free. So that there is something in this. There's a way of incentivising residents for the Isle of Man and giving something back. It may be Heritage Railways, could even be the steam packet. I always insure my vehicles on the island and get great low premiums. I've got 3 vehicles and pay £180 for the highest. Keep it local. That's WhatsApp 437. Thanks also to one company offers a great deal for 16-year-olds. Car insurance up to a 1.6 litre car around £500 to £600, says the plumber. Thank you, plumber. Thanks. I won't name that insurance company because they don't advertise. And there's no point giving people free advertising, is there? Or am I being churlish? The seawall has now completely ruined our lovely Victorian promenade, not the main prom project, which visitors thought was lovely, clean and bright. So what's wrong with just having a clean-up after each storm has always been done? By the way, it's already bad enough without turning it into a play school wall, says Liz. This is the fact that they're putting money aside, 40,000 plus, for decorating this new wall that we've got. We all know parking on the pavement is illegal, so why do people think it's all right to park on the walkway on the prom prom. I was walking along the prom on Friday night, was nearly hit by a car jostling for a parking space on the walkway. The walkway. Why is the DOI allowing this? Is it because the Gaiety is government owned? And before you say it is the disabled, most, if not all, have no blue badges on display and did not seem to be struggling to walk. Text to 107. Most people seem to be able to make it to Chester Street and walk. One of these nights someone's going to be hurt. And the old excuse that everybody was doing it, so they thought it must be allowed. Is this true? Because it was Chicago, wasn't it, on the Gaiety, which was a very, very good production. But were people parking on there? Thanks also to Morris, who just said, let's congratulate the Governor, Lieutenant Governor Sir John Lorimer, who's been extended through until September 2027. And also a note in, this is from, thank you, Hugh, who just said, what's this thing about the Eastern Neighbourhood Police and there are meetings because of something? Well,
the Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Well, a series of drop-in sessions organised by the Eastern Neighbourhood Police were very valuable, apparently. And there are more police drop-in sessions at the Commissioner's offices in Oncombe, running from 10 until noon on the first and third Tuesday of every month. There was one this morning, so unfortunately you missed it. The first and third Tuesday of every month at Oncombe Commissioner's office. And thanks also to Sally, who just said, I see that beyond the grave, Albert Goubet has given £10 million to Bangor University in North Wales. How about they throw a few million this way? I can imagine what Albert Goubet would say. That's it. Thanks to Chris Quirk on the phones. Back tomorrow with another Open Line.
WINT.